Hello everyone, welcome to this short tutorial from Pathology Made Simple at I Love Pathology. This is the part 4 of 4-part series of the tissue repair topic. Okay, in the earlier parts we had discussed about the general aspects of tissue repair. We had discussed in detail about how the regeneration takes place. We have discussed in detail about the process of angiogenesis and also steps in wound healing. In this part we will be discussing about the abnormalities in the tissue repair or complications of wound healing. Okay, we will talk about what are the various complications or abnormalities involved in tissue repair. So before that, let us recap as to what are the steps in the scar formation. So whenever there is an injury, the immediate thing which happens is the formation of hemostatic plug, which stops bleeding and provides scaffold for deposition of fibrin, right? Which then leads to inflammation, basically to eliminate the offending agent, and then leads to the proliferation of various cells, which could be remnants of injured tissue, it could be vascular endothelial cells, which could be fibroblasts, and then that leads to formation of granulation tissue, finally deposition of connective tissue. All these things were discussed in greater details in the earlier videos, right? If any of these steps go wrong, if any of these steps become abnormal, that would result in abnormalities in tissue repair. Now let us understand what are these abnormalities. The abnormalities can be classified into defects in healing process. It could be because of excessive cell proliferation. It could be because of excessive scarring. The defects in healing is classified as, it could be either wound dehiscence or it could be chronic wounds, and that could be venous ulcers, the arterial ulcers, diabetic ulcers, and pressure sores. Now what happens if there is excessive cell proliferation? That could result in exuberant granulation tissue or excessive fibroblast proliferation, which is otherwise referred to as desmoids. What happens when there is excessive scarring? That could result in hypertrophic scar. It could be keloid formation or it could be scar contracture. So let us understand in detail about each one of these entities. Firstly, wound dehiscence. Wound dehiscence usually occurs after surgery, particularly abdominal surgeries where the surgical incision reopens either internally or externally. We also refer this to as burst abdomen. What are the causes and what are the risk factors for wound dehiscence? It could be obesity, it could be malnutrition, it could be various infections at the surgical incision site, could be vitamin C deficiency where collagen is not laid properly. It could be even vascular insufficiency. All these are the risk factors for the wound dehiscence. Okay, what are the precipitating factors? In these patients, if the patient is having vomiting, cough post-operatively, that is a precipitating factor because it increases the intra-abdominal pressure and the wound starts opening. Okay, that is wound dehiscence. Now let us understand the various chronic wounds. It could be venous ulcers, arterial ulcers, diabetic ulcers, and pressure sores. Firstly, venous ulcers. What are these venous ulcers? Particularly in individuals who have varicose veins or congestive cardiac failure, that would result in chronic venous hypertension. This chronic venous hypertension further leads to chronic hypoxia at the site of ulcer, or it could also have uncontrolled inflammation at that site. So because of these two factors, ultimately there will be failure to heal, and that will result in the formation of venous ulcers or chronic wounds. So moving on to arterial ulcers. Arterial ulcers, particularly in the scenarios of atherosclerosis of peripheral arteries due to whatever cause. What happens when there is atherosclerosis? That would lead to ischemia, and then once there is ischemia, that ischemia leads to hypoxia, and then that leads to atrophy and necrosis of the skin and underlying tissues, which might lead to ulcer. So these are the causes of arterial ulcers. It could be seen most commonly in the diabetic patients. So now moving on to diabetic ulcers. These ulcers are seen in lower extremities, particularly in the feet. Number of factors play a role in the evolution of diabetic ulcers. In diabetic patients, these patients will have vascular diseases, these patients will have neuropathy, these patients will have metabolic abnormalities, these patients are more prone for development of secondary infections. All these things, finally it leads to epithelial ulceration and excessive granulation tissue. These patients, the wounds in diabetic ulcers do not heal properly, and then they remain as chronic wounds. So lastly, we talk about pressure sores. What are these pressure sores? Whenever the patients are immobilized for longer duration, particularly bedridden patients in the hospital settings, what happens? There will be prolonged compression of tissues against a bone. that would lead to mechanical pressure and local ischemia. And once there is ischemia, that leads to hypoxia, skin ulceration and necrosis. So this is how pressure sores are developed. So now defects in healing includes wound dehiscence and chronic wounds, which includes venous, arterial, diabetic ulcers and pressure sores. Now we'll move on to understanding the excessive cell proliferation leading to abnormalities in tissue repair. The first one being exuberant granulation. So what is this exuberant granulation? Formation of excessive amounts of granulation tissue which protrudes above the level of surrounding skin. That is very important to call this as exuberant granulation, because normally granulation tissue will be formed, but when it protrudes above the level of surrounding skin, then it is referred to as exuberant granulation tissue. It's referred to as proud flesh. Okay, so this is a normal occurrence of granulation tissue. It is at the level of the surrounding skin, but look at this image where there is protrusion of the granulation tissue. This is referred to as exuberant granulation. What will happen if there is exuberant granulation? It basically blocks re-epithelialization. What does that mean? That means, the opposite ends of this skin will not be able to re-epithelialize, and then closure of wound might not happen, will not happen rather. So what do? How do you manage these cases? You have to remove the excess granulation tissue either by cautery or surgery so that you can permit restoration of epithelial continuity. So this is one of the complications of tissue repair where there is excessive cell proliferation. In this case, excessive proliferation of granulation tissue. The next important one is exuberant proliferation of fibroblasts. Okay, we know what cells proliferate: the epithelial cells, the vascular endothelial cells and fibroblasts. We talked about exuberant granulation, which was basically because of excessive proliferation of vascular endothelial cells and formation of more and more granulation tissue. Here there is proliferation of fibroblasts. There is exuberant proliferation of fibroblasts and other connective tissue elements which are referred to as desmoids. Even if you remove these, even if you excise these desmoids, it recurs. That is the importance of knowing excessive proliferation of fibroblasts. Okay, that is why they are also referred to as aggressive fibromatosis, which are basically a low-grade tumors. It is in between benign and malignant tumors. Okay, they are considered as low-grade tumors. One of the complication because of excessive proliferation of fibroblasts. Now moving on to excessive scarring, we will discuss one by one. Firstly, hypertrophic scar and keloids. What are hypertrophic scar and keloids? They are basically because of accumulation of excessive amounts of collagen. Both hypertrophic scar and keloid are because of excessive accumulation of collagen. Both results in raised abnormal scar. Okay, both results in raised abnormal scar. But what is the difference between these two? The difference is, in the case of hypertrophic scar, the growth is within the confines of the original wound, whereas keloid, they grow beyond the borders of the original wound. So the basic difference between hypertrophic scar and keloid is hypertrophic scar grows within the confines of the original wound, whereas keloid grow beyond the borders of the original wound. And hypertrophic scar regress in size over a period of time, whereas keloid do not regress. Where do you see hypertrophic scar? In the settings of thermal injuries or traumatic injuries that involves deeper layers of dermis, whereas keloid has individual predisposition. Not everybody will develop keloid. Some of the individuals develop keloid, they have their underlying causes, genetic causes could be. So this is hypertrophic scar after a burn injury. Look at this. It's a raised scar. Normally, there will be some amount of contracture, right? Whereas in this case, the scar, because of excessive deposition of collagen, the scar is raised, but then it is confined within the boundaries of the given wound. Look at this keloid. This is also abnormal. This is also raised scar, but it has grown beyond the confines of the wound. This is another example showing keloid of the earlobes. This happens whenever there is an ear prick, which in some individuals, they develop excessive amounts of collagen and they, develop into a nodular enlargement, mimicking a tumor, and this is known as keloid. Remember, earlobe is one of the most common sites for occurrence of keloid. So the last abnormality we'll be discussing is contractures. Contraction in the size of the wound is a normal process of healing. We all know that. But whenever there is exaggeration of this process, then that is referred to as contracture. Okay. What happens when there is contracture? It deforms the wound and also the surrounding tissues. So there will be deformities in the wound and surrounding tissues. Most common sites of contractures are palms and soles and anterior thorax. Okay, this usually occurs in the cases of severe burns. Look at this. This is a contracture seen in the palms. This is a case of severe burns. Look at the amount of contracture which has happened. There is deformity of the wound, there is deformity of the surrounding tissue, and then there will be restriction of the movement as well. So this is what is referred to as contracture. So summarizing the whole thing, we discussed about defects in wound healing in the form of wound dehiscence and chronic wounds, excessive cell proliferation in the form of exuberant granulation and exuberant fibroblast proliferation, excessive scarring in the form of hypertrophic scar, keloid, and contracture. So this completes the part 4 of 4-part series of tissue repair. You can go back and watch all the earlier parts for effective understanding of the entire concepts of tissue repair. Thank you for watching. If you have liked this video, please hit the like button, do subscribe, don't forget to share if you have liked this. Thank you very much.